Shinji and Warhammer40k, Chapter 3. This is Tokyo-3, Part 1. "Good morning, Shinji," said Ritsuko, a little testily. "How are you?"
"Good morning, Akagi-sensei." His voice was distracted. Piloting the Evangelion had started to become routine. He could still feel it in his mind, the all-consuming anger at, everything. He wondered what could have caused it. Though Shinji had ideas about the machine spirit, he didn't quite yet imagine that the Eva might have a mind of its own, that it would be aware of him, that it would hate itself and him and everything in between. A spirit to him didn't need to be self-aware or independent. The word on the tip of his lips was daemon host.
"That's fine. Appearance, positions, and emergency power source, locations of armed buildings and recovery spots. Have you kept all of them in your mind?"
"I have, Akagi-sensei. Without power, the machine spirit cannot function. Without weapons, it cannot deliver its wrath. Without a happy machine spirit, humanity would be destroyed."
"Why do you suffer?" he asked it. "What can I do to help ease your pain?"
As expected, only rage and hunger met his mind.
"Well, I'll review the lesson again. Eva usually works with electric power supply from the cable. If Eva used the internal battery in an emergency, it can work only for 1 minute at its full strength, or for 5 minutes at most on basic tasks. Did you get that?"
"Yes, Akagi-sensei." He nodded, attentive. In the heat of battle, there was no time for fancy planning. The future blurred into the now, and in seconds, legions may live or die. "Thank you, Akagi-sensei." The pencil snapped in her hands. His sheer submissiveness irritated her in ways she couldn't explain. It simply couldn't be natural in Gendo's son, not when she saw in those eyes the same icy ruthlessness that lay in his father. It had to be a trick somehow.
"Very well. Let's resume our lesson on induction mode where we left off yesterday."
The Evangelion skipped out of cover, bursting with its oversized autocannon made into an assault rifle analog at a holographic image of the angel from the last time. He missed and ducked behind another building.
"Keep your head," Ritsuko advised. "Aim at the center of the target, then pull the switch."
Shinji leaned out of cover and shot at the angel. "Pull the switch."
"Good. Next."
The simulation ran through the entry plug and supposedly the Evangelion's brain itself. Magi, the 3 supercomputers running Nerve, supplied and interpreted the sensory data. Within a sealed room, the Evangelion could act out encounters in relative safety. Due to the size of the Eva, more complicated motions couldn't be acted out, such as running, diving, or just close combat. Nerve had for this the Pribnow box, which if only Shinji could see behind the thick walls, would have horrified the boy at the truth of their technology. What he believed to be simulating this battle were banks of supercomputers, but instead he was running off the nerve signals of what used to be a mutilated, skinned, and dismembered human torso.
"Damn it, Shinji!" Ritsuko shouted. "Stop showing off! Just point and shoot! Point and shoot! This isn't a game! Accuracy is what's important here!"
The Evangelion began to rack up accuracy. 60, 67, 79, according to the Magi. Then that dropped again, as Shinji began to move around at random and fire from different positions.
"Shinji, are you even listening to me? Are you playing with me?" "It sure is surprising Shinji-kun's so enthusiastic about this," said Maya. "I'd like to think it's because he's found a purpose worthy of his life," was the reply. "I'd like to think that, but it was likely not to be the case. A big part of that would be how much he hated his father."
The Evangelion was power over his father. It made him important, unignorable. Shinji's reasoning for his failure to conform to test procedures was actually rather simple. Missing the enemy delayed the simulation end, and how long he might stay at one location. One of the first things he did upon being left to his devices was roam around Tokyo-3 and familiarise himself with the city's layout. His ignorance of its structure had left widespread devastation, suffering everywhere, caused by him. "We must be prepared," he said to himself. "We must make sure our next battle is fast and precise." He had the Eldar vote for that. The Space Marine was non-committal as long as the Xenos were destroyed. The Raw Boss wanted more destruction, and the Chaos simply liked all the deaths. Well, pity for them it wasn't a democracy. He tried to equate the buildings he saw on the ground to that of the simulation. Those important and less important. Those he could afford to let be destroyed. Those to protect. Those to avoid. Hospital. Shopping centre. Apartment blocks. Ritsuko, who was still in the clear mindset of Shinji as selfish and power-hungry as his father, couldn't even conceive of this.
I think it's because he wants to protect someone,
sighed Maya.
Who?
Maya realised she'd spoken out loud. She wasn't supposed to know that, and it felt like a betrayal of Shinji's confidence. Still, it was her senpai asking.
Right. Don't they just look cute together?
Ritsuko shuddered at the image. A mini Gendo and a mini Yu. Would there even be a Tokyo-3 after it was all done?
If he thinks that, then humanity may be doomed. We need to keep a level threat if we're to get through this. Oh, don't worry, Senpai. I'm sure Shinji-kun will keep his priorities straight.
She shivered again at the odd timbre she heard in his voice. The enemies of humanity will die. By my hands they shall be broken. Ooh, she giggled.
He's sort of heroic that way.
Heroic? What an odd thing to say. Shinji, with his small frames and frankly rather creepy expressions, was the furthest from heroic in any sight.
Did you talk to him much when I sent you to get his files? Not much, Senpai. He did leave an impression, though.
Gods, he's starting already. First he'll manipulate the perceptions of my staff, then what?
I have more important things to do, she said. Maya, could you handle the rest of this for me?
She couldn't stomach being around the boy any longer.
Sure thing, Senpai.
Through it all, Misato, who stood at the back of the room, said nothing. Only when Ritsuko was out of the door did she comment.
What are you doing now, Shinji?
She asked when she saw him walking forwards, then back away from the angel target. I don't like this gun, Misato-san.
Why not?
Sure, it has a high rate of fire, but I think I'm going to just poke holes in the enemy if it has a soft body like the last one. Can angels heal as fast as Evangelions?
That's why we have hollow points, Shinji. Besides, you should really be aiming at the core anyway. That's why Ritsuko was so annoyed.
Then what if it's armoured? What if I miss? What about the AT field? The longer the fighting goes on, the more damage we do. I think I need something bigger than this. Something that can kill the angel in just one shot. As it is, I remember how fast the angel was. It could be at me already by the distances I'm forced to follow. I need a bolter. I need a bolter, bad. Going hand to hand against an angel leads to bad things. Green things, angry green things. Please, Misato-san. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, Misato-san.
Well, it's at the drawing boards. We'll get someone after a while. It's good to see you taking this seriously, even if Rich-chan thinks you're just playing around.
He nodded. Misato-san, she wasn't a bad person. It was good to have a steady ally in Tokyo-3. Chaos! Back! Back, I say! A good person? By the Emperor, she feeds untidiness enough to be considered its demon princess. Shinji marvelled at the state of her room. The woman was hunkered down under a futon blanket, like a turtle. Misato-san, he poked her with a clothes hanger. Misato-san, it's already morning, Misato-san. Like a turtle, she slid further in. Misato-san, please get up. Misato-san. Poke. Poke. Poke, 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 poke. Misato-san!
Go away!
The woman slid her head out slightly and looked at Shinji with bleary eyes.
I was on night duty until just some time ago. Today I've only to appear in the evening, so please let me sleep.
Ah, poor Misato-san. She didn't even have a hangover as an excuse. Are you sure? Don't you want something to eat? Egg and mushrooms?
Tempting, but sorry, Shinji.
Alright, see you later, Misato-san.
Is today Thursday? Burnable trash only, please.
Already handled. Waste was weapon of the enemy. Recycling was Shinji's main defence against it. He glowered around the room. Soon we shall have a reckoning.
Later, Shinji.
Later, Misato-san. After he left for an undeterminate amount of time, Misato's phone rang. She took it and snuggled back under the covers.
Yes?
No.
Hello?
Die.
Oh, it's you, Ritsuko. You're calling me.
I will find you and I will strap you down to a bed like we did in college, and this time you won't enjoy it.
How are you doing, Misato? Aren't you getting along with him?
You will give me the information that I need so I too can sleep easily.
Him? Oh, Shinji-kun.
Damn it, even I can tell you're obsessing about the kid. What are you, some kind of Shotokan?
It's 2 weeks after he transferred to the school. He is as he was.
I've grown used to his oddity.
He never got any telephone calls.
Odd. We never did forbid him to tell about his status as a pilot. Good to see he's using some discretion. Too much attachment could be a weakness.
Telephone calls?
Odd. I thought he'd have a colt by now. The nerve phone Misato gave him was left at his desk. Meanwhile, at school. Hey, Akari, what's your number? A student asked, trying to be perfunctorily friendly to the new kid. Oh, Shinji pulled out the phone he bought at a random shop with his own money. He didn't trust anything from Nerve not to have a monitoring system built into it. Though, come to think of it, if his father was even halfway competent as a defence of humanity, Shinji was sure any store-bought cell phone could be tracked anyway. He looked at the number saved in memory. Here. He kept the phone in silent mode. Misato continued.
I gave him a phone for necessary contact. Outside of Nerve calls, I don't think he's ever used it or got a call from anybody.
For all the hype you put up about state-of-the-art, you think we'd be able to give out a less tacky phone?
He has no friends, though I'm not sure.
So stay away, damn it! He's mine, mine, mine!
He seems to have an unsuited personality for making friends, doesn't he?
Fools, you don't know what sort of forces you tamper with. Ritsuko, calling from her office, turned on her chair to look at the geofront outside.
Do you know the story of the hedgehog's dilemma?
Danger, Misato, danger!
The spiny animal?
What the hell, Ritsuko?
If a hedgehog wants to give or receive warmth from other hedgehogs, the nearer they approach, the more they injure each other. It's the same as people.
Misato, when did we ever stop really being best friends? Oh, right, when I started to fuck Gendo and couldn't let you know about it. She stood up and went to the window.
As he is frightened of aches in his heart, he seems so detached now.
I'm lonely.
Fear? Shinji? Well, I suppose. This has to be entirely new to him. He's such a serious boy.
Stay away from Shinji. Shinji entered the room silently. No one seemed to notice. Rei was still staring out the window, but knew without looking. He left a unique trace to her passive senses. He sat down on his desk and nodded briefly to Hikari Horaki. The freckled girl was still reserved towards him, but other than Rei was the only one in that class he could actually identify with. He'd been class representative in his last class. Gods, what a hassle. There were a lot of boys in that class. On his first day of school, he stood up front and introduced himself after the token. Please treat him well. My name's Shinji Ikari and I just moved here to Tokyo-3. He looked up for a moment. I came here because of my father. I didn't really expect the attack, so I guess we spent the first time we met in so many years just ignoring each other and trying to survive. I'm going to stay here and help in his business. That's admirable, Ikari-kun, said the teacher. I see my class getting smaller and smaller each day. It's good that there are those who are brave enough to stick around. Please, take a seat. He picked a chair among many, making sure not to be too close nor too far from Rei, or make it seem that they knew each other previously. He took out a notebook. Hikari turned to him and said,
We don't use actual notebooks here, Ikari-kun. Do you need help using a computer?
No, thank you. I guess it's just comforting. I've been writing on paper for so long. I can save my work, but the important stuff, I'll keep it with me. She smiled a bit. It was good to see someone else serious with schoolwork. Shinji wrote into it, in deliberately sloppy writing. Hikari Horaki, class rep, a position of some influence. Ask for basic information and for monitoring classmates. Proper, independent, will need to be subtle, best approached from a non-romantic standpoint. Days passed and his list of people to possibly allow into a scenario failed to grow. In fact, there remained 3. Rei Ayanami, protect, main link to Nerve, possibly higher security clearance than I have. Ask about things I can't subtly interrogate Masato-san about. As long as father uses her as emotional blackmail, I have to stay in Tokyo-3. I feel I can reverse this somehow. Kensuke Ida, class clown, social pariah, has a friend still absent, very knowledgeable about a variety of useless topics, seems to regard me with some degree of suspicion, might need to adjust him later. Seems to be enamoured with military affairs, dreamer, idealist, manipulatable to a ridiculous degree. Shinji tapped his pencil at the edge of the desk and began to doodle the symbols of his 4 main figures. There was the double-headed eagle to the Imperium, there was the squinting orc, there was the Eye of the Eldar, there was the 8-pointed star of chaos, Focusing on each, he could imagine a link to them he had left behind at the apartment. If he crossed his eyes a little bit, he could actually imagine a chimera's black wings flapping, the stylized orc face moving its jaws, the eye looking and winking, and the chaos symbol glowing a faint purple hue. He did not draw the latter often, even in play, on the off chance he might accidentally actually summon a demon. While suitably distracted during 3 hours, other students tended to their own concerns. Hikari went over to Kensuke to scold him about not giving Toji his homework.
Well, class rep, there was no one at Toji's house. Okay, this might shock you, but Toji's house isn't even there anymore. What? You mean in that robot incident? Could he be hurt?
She faltered.
Or killed? I don't know. You're his friend, aren't you? Why aren't you worried about him? Class rep, it's my philosophy that one can't know the future. I could worry about him, but it wouldn't do me and him any good. I've reached the limits of what I can find out. The only thing I can do is wait for him to show up. If he doesn't, well...
He pushed his glasses back up his nose.
I'll gladly take the pain, but not before then. Not before I know.
Hikari stood there and licked the top of her lips, uncertain.
Well, maybe he's alright. The TV did say no one was seriously hurt. What, are you insane? Did you see the explosion? The units of not only Aruma and Komatsu, but Misara and Kyushu were sent out. Did you see the main avenue? Entire blocks are gone. I'm sure there were more than 10 or 20 people injured. Probably some may have been killed. That's horrible. Why should such things happen? Nobody knows. The word's being hush-hush on this sort of thing.
Summoned into the classroom. He was the athletic and rebellious sort, wearing a sporting jacket in defiance of uniform rules. That he went to school way past the required time implied he might have had to sneak in. Students noticed.
Toji!
Kensuke said out loud, overjoyed.
Suzuhara!
Hikari's surprise was more muted, but there stood pleased nonetheless. Suzuhara Toji grinned lopsidedly at raves.
Well, there's a lot fewer people here than I remember.
Kensuke shrugged.
You know how it is. Evacuations. Many went to transfer to other faraway schools. That's what you get when there's a war in the city. You're the only man I know who's actually pleased to see a real battle. But Toji, it was awesome. I managed to get my hands on leaked footage. There were a few people stubborn enough not to go to the shelter. It's blurry as hell, but it's there and I can't decide. Headbutting the enemy to death. Was it genius or stupidly awesome?
Toji spat to the side.
You want to know why I was absent, Kensuke? My younger sister, she was buried under a heap of rubble. She barely escaped death, but had to stay in a hospital since then. My father and grandfather both work for the research center. They can't desert their posts now. If I weren't with her, she would have been left alone.
He sat down on his seat and put his foot up the table with force.
Damn that pilot! I'm burning up. He destroyed more of our city than the enemy. What did he think he was doing?
The two didn't know how to respond.
I'm sorry, Toji,
Hikari said softly after a while.
How is she now? She's conscious. She can't move out of her bed yet, but at least she's awake. That's why I could come here now. She nagged me into coming here.
Kensuke leaned closer and whispered.
Hey, did you hear the rumor about the transfer student? A transfer student? There. No, don't look. He came here only after the incident. Don't you think that's strange? People would usually be leaving, not going here. I don't think that's so strange.
Hikari had to say something in Shinji's defense.
Did you hear him say he's minding his father's business? He didn't expect anything to happen. I don't think he actually has a choice about leaving or staying.
Kensuke made a face.
Please, class rep, must you kill my joy with your logic?
The teacher began to talk about Second Impact. Shinji had actually heard most of it before from his teachers early in junior high. Most of the other students were familiar with it too. As much as the elementary years focused only on the better part of humanity, so did junior high schooling seem determined to let it soak into the minds of students just how much their parents had to sacrifice to give them the slightly more comfortable world they lived in.
The hardest trials for the human race began then. In the last year of the 20th century, a massive meteorite which came from outer space fell in the Antarctic continent. It caused the ice of the continent to melt in a moment. Tsunamis ravaged all coasts. As a result, the water level of the oceans went up, the Earth axis fluctuated, and abnormal weather which threatened the very existence of living things occurred all over the world.
Now here's as I see it, Shinji thought. Either all the nations of the world failed to detect such a rock approaching the Earth, or some select few knew, and knowing that there would be nothing anyone could do to stop it, simply let it come and had the world enjoy themselves up to their final moment.
That seems needlessly complicated, Shinji, replied the Farseer through the link. I would also say inhuman, but I expect very little humanity, as you monkey call it, from your kind.
I would take insult, but I must agree. That it would catch them blind is indeed most improbable, but more possible than the other,
said the Space Marine.
Or it could simply be,
Chaos put in, well versed in duplicity,
that it was intentional. Someone or something sent significant impact. I would not be surprised if we, and by that I mean humanity, caused it. We as Chaos would not have hesitated, of course.
Whatever reply Shinji was going to make died in his mind as his computer beeped softly. A message? Is it true you're a pilot of that robot? Yes/no. He blinked. He tried to find the sender, but it was sent for an anonymous host. He was hardly the most computer-savvy people and knew no way of tracing it. He merely looked at it with a slight frown.
But 15 years after that, the teacher continued, out of only 15 years we have revived the world so far. This is not only the result of the excellence of the human race.
It is true, isn't it? Another line scrolled up. The answer was obvious. He was about to push N when he saw his finger drifting past it to Y.
No,
must remain truthful. Lies displease the Emperor. Even Chaos knows reason. This way! His left hand fought with his right until the finger stabbed the button.
But the one of blood, sweat, tears and efforts of your fathers and mothers.
Everyone in class turned to look at him. Shit, Shinji said. A voice within him groaned.
This is why evil wins, because good is dumb.
Heretic.
Idiot.
Too late. Can't lie now. Had to come out sooner or later. Foolish, was Ray's thought, while still staring outside. They crowded him with questions. He could feel every one of his other figures dogpiling the Space Marine inside his mindscape. It was a grand skirmish as he tried to fight them all off simultaneously. He ignored the other students' queries as he fought over his own ideals. Arguably, he stuck closest to the virtues of the Emperor and his Imperium. However, he and the Space Marine had connected in a way he hadn't foreseen, and now his instincts seemed sharper somehow. He heard something about being the pride of their school. Damn the attention. It would make crafting his scenario harder. No doubt Father preferred to be all but unknown. He was very grateful for Hikari attempting to take control of the class, and said so as much as it ended. She accepted his thanks, but curtly.
Sorry, new kid, but I have to hit you. I can't be satisfied until I hit you.
Shinji sighed. Should I just take the hit? I caused so many to suffer. Yet at the same time, could you have done any better? He asked, inflaming Toji with his calmness. No one had any idea it would have actually worked. I didn't even know about it until I arrived here, during the attack.
Why, I won't accept your excuses.
He shoved a fist at Shinji's face. The pilot merely bent away a fraction to the side and let it pass, then actually slapping it away with the side of his head. It surprised Shinji too. Those were reflexes normally attributed to the Astartes. His normal tactic thus far had been to take the hit, letting his small frame deceive them, then maul the tar out of the other guy. An orcish way to fight. He had a surprising level of pain tolerance for such a little guy. Shinji tilted his head and listened. They had him bound and gagged. Ha! When its enemies unite, even the finest of an Imperium may fall. The Space Marine's acid spit burned through the gag, and he leapt over to bite the ear of Chaos. The melee started again. Shinji decided it would be better to ignore them and focus on the problem at hand. Kensuke grabbed Toji before he could tackle Shinji.
Toji, think it over. Do you really want to get into a fight with someone who kills his enemies by headbutting them to death? This vicious, arrogant bastard isn't any better than the enemy he was fighting.
Maybe, Shinji replied sadly and put his hands deep into his pockets. I can't seem to cause anybody anything but pain, no matter how hard I try to help.
See, said the jock, he wants it. Just stomps him, little boss. It would be easy.
No, I might actually deserve this. I heard about what happened to his sister. Hitting you will not help her in any way, added the Farseer. To whom do you truly owe your responsibilities to? Then perceive, to whom does he owe his own duty? Shinji ducked down as a fist swung at his head again. Bending at the waist and taking a single step forward, he drove the top of his head at Toji's abdomen. The more physically able young teen fell backwards with an oof! Shinji never even had time to take his hands out of his pockets. See? Kensuke crowed. Told ya! Why, you... Toji got up quickly. I won't let you look down on us little people. We live in this city too. You destroyed our home. You hurt my sister. I can't let you get away with that. I can win this with force, Shinji realized. But it won't help him. He's suffering too. How much more must I do to save these people? I'm not a god or an emperor. But I can. I failed to protect them once. If it will ease some of them pain, then let me carry it. Since dealing with chaos all those years ago, the sight of people in pain also put him in pain. It wasn't a good pain. But it's not yours to take. You can't steal it from them. Pain makes you strong. Let them be sad and let them be alive. Take their pain and they're never going to learn who's really boss of whom, who's responsible for whom. They need to learn that they need to respect themselves too. But he's just going to keep trying to harm me until he succeeds. He needs it. I won't deny that it's my fault your sister got hurt and your home was destroyed. I won't even try to ask for your forgiveness, Shinji said with his eyes closed. But why do you really want to take revenge, Suzuhara-san? Them? Or that you couldn't save them? I know what it feels like to be powerless. There was a meaty thwack! My toes! You punched me in the toes! Shinji opened his eyes to see Toji fallen on the ground, clutching his face, and Rei beside him with her right arm outstretched. I will not let you harm Pilot Ikari, she said flatly. Rei? As you've sworn to protect me inside the Evangelion, then I shall protect you outside of it. She nodded to him. There is an emergency at Nerve. I shall go on ahead. But first, one last look down at Suzuhara Toji. You will not harm Pilot Ikari. The boys watched her turn and walk away. Suke? Toji asked after a while. Did I just get beat down and threatened by Ayanami? Yeah. I'm scared and at the same time strangely turned on. Wham! Shinji's foot stomped on the ground just below Toji's crotch. The teen let out a surprised yeah. The pilot leaned over to rest his elbow on his knee. His eyes were in shadow under the bangs of his hair. Ayanami-san has known it her fate to pilot the Evangelion since she could talk. She has suffered more pain, seen such horrors than you can ever imagine. Shinji looked up, and contrary to their dread, actually had a kind look in his eyes. Then he tilted his head and smiled slightly. I don't mind if you hate me, Suzuhara-san, but if you or anyone else disrespects Ayanami-san, I will smash you. Do we understand each other? He looked first to Toji, then Kensuke. Both boys nodded frantically. Shinji stood up and bowed deeply. I can't say I'm sorry to you, Suzuhara-san, but I will kneel and beg forgiveness before your sister. We should talk later. He turned and left, following Ayanami. The two other boys were left there at the school backyard, unmoving until the Eva pilots were out of sight. Then they both let out the breaths they were holding. Damn, Toji! I didn't think you could win against that guy. A man in love's just a wall you can burst your fist on. Kensuke looked aside and then said with wonder, Are you crying? It wasn't that scary. Well, maybe it was. Damn it. Damn it! He scraped at the soil. I hate that guy. He comes here as if he's all perfect. And he's right. I hate that he's right. I don't have the right to take revenge on him. Only my sister and my father and grandfather can do that. I wasn't injured. I didn't buy that house out of my own money. Damn it! Toji, hey, man. Damn it! I need to punch something, Kensuke. Anything. Maybe I should go stand over there, somewhere else. The glasses geek added nervously. Come on, let's go back to class. Kensuke sighed, relieved. Okay. Boring lectures were better than this emotional crap. He didn't know how to deal with it. He really needed a gun. Guns made things simple. This is Tokyo-3. The ruins of the last battle still marked it. And now, barely 3 weeks have passed, and once more it must suffer.
Tokyo-3 is moving to battle formation.
Buildings began to sink down into the geofront.
Central block of districts 1 to 7 have been housed.
Up at the command seat, Kozo Futsuki sat tensely. He made sure to keep his hands on the table rather than together right under his nose. Miss Sato looked up at him briefly, then back to the main screen.
While Commander Ikari's away, the fourth angel arrives. Not again. We're caught off guard. The last time it was a 15-year interval, Makoto helpfully added. This time it's just 3 weeks. They never think about our circumstances, do they? They're the type women hate, Misato mused.
Always be considerate, Makoto noted. Misato-san likes considerate men. The screen showed conventional forces attacking the floating squid-shaped angel. As expected, even a mass barrage of shaped-charged missile artillery hardly even phased it. Tanks and VTOLs weren't sent out from the JSS-DF bases. The memory of Sachiel's brutal stride lingered as a lesson in the costs in life. They are wasting taxes, said Futsuki. Have we received authorization to mobilize yet? Shigeru nodded. Yes, sir. The committee's demanding us to mobilize. Immediately. Maya hid a grin. Time for Shinji to play hero. Deep within the launch cage, Shinji closed his eyes. Machine spirit, my eyes are your eyes. My heart is your heart, my will is your will. My rage is your rage. Let us be one and destroy that which threatens humanity. His mind flashed back to the wounded, the damage, the city rising in golden triumph as the sun ascended to the sky. Let us end all suffering. Kill was the only thing he could feel in return. As always, all kill.
Shinji-kun, are you ready?
Yes, Misato-san. Machine spirit, let us protect this city. Let us protect its people. Irrelevant.
Ava, launch!
Yelled Misato. The Evangelion shot up its electromagnetic catapult system. Kill! The Ava was expectant.